What happens when two of the year's most anticipated movies bomb and don't live up to the hype? One was supposed to launch the next era of the legendary superhero. The other aimed to revive one of the pop culture's most iconic fantasy franchises. But when the dust settles, fans were left asking the same questions. What went wrong? What happened? What's going on? And not only that, what is this shit? So today, we're putting Supergirl and Masters of the Universe head to head to answer that question. Which one was the biggest disappointment? But I want not only me to give my opinions about which one I believe was the biggest disappointment, but I want to hear from you guys also. So make sure not only did you like the video, that you leave a comment and subscribe to the channel, because that helps me to help you. And in the end, we both win. So let's start off with Masters of the Universe. Now, Masters of the Universe, there was some hype around this movie. And people was excited about this because, we hadn't had a He-Man movie since Dolph Lundgren, and that was back in the 80s. And people were like, okay. Especially when they announced the cast, it was like, all right, I'm going to give it a chance. And then they started dropping images, and then they started, when they put out some of the trailers, people were like, okay, all right, it's caught my attention. So I want to see what happens with this and where it is going to go. And where did He-Man go? Didn't go too far. Because according to the box office reports, He-Man, Masters of the Universe, made, give me a second, y'all. It had a $170 million budget. It only made $113 million. $170 was spent, but only made $113 million. Yeah, we all know that that's a flop. We all know that. But the thing about He-Man was it had the potential. But the only thing about it was the story. The story just didn't really, it was like, could have been better. And it had like I said, it had potential, but when it came to the story, they just couldn't nail a good story. And the story about him being on Earth and going back to Eternia, that just didn't sit right with me, and it didn't sit right with a lot of people. I felt like what they should have did was that they should have scrapped that storyline and made it with him already in Eternia, and could have made it where he's stepping into becoming He-Man. There's a lot of ways they could have went with that, but they didn't. So now at this point, are we going to see another He-Man movie or animated film? I don't think we're going to see that for a while. Now it didn't do so good at the box office. It might do good on streaming. Who knows? We just have to see. Moving on to Supergirl. Now, Supergirl, I knew that this was going to just be a flop. I knew that this was not going to be good. And the reason why I knew that this wasn't going to be good was because, wait a minute, before I give you my thoughts, let's read the box office for Supergirl. It had a budget of $170 million, 170 to 186 million. And the box office for it was only 115 million. A flop. But let me tell you my reasons why I knew that this movie was going to flop. Number one, Superman was a flop and didn't do so good. A lot of people didn't too much care for that. And at the end of Superman, when they showed Supergirl coming in there and she was drunk, I was like, okay, the movie wasn't that good, and then y'all gonna throw this up in here, not really catching my attention like that. And then when they announced that they was gonna make a Supergirl movie, after people saw that didn't sit too well with people. Because they were like, the same Supergirl who we saw that was drunk, y'all gonna make a movie with her? All right, whatever. Then when the trailer came out, the trailer was not good at all. It just looked like a ripoff of Guardians of the Galaxy. The story was not good. It was nothing in there that really caught people's attention. And the movie was just garbage. Because I'm sitting in the theater watching the movie. I'm just like, okay, I'm trying to get into it. Where's the direction? Where is it going? It just didn't go nowhere. It had no direction. Just like James Gunn taking over the DC universe and all these things that he's doing. No direction. So when you have a studio head who doesn't have a direction, don't know what the fuck he's doing, yeah, you're going to get this. And Supergirl is one of those characters that a lot of people are like, so if you're going to do a Supergirl movie, just like if you're going to do a Superman movie, you got to connect the dots and it's got to come out on top. It's got to be really good. And they failed with this miserably. So at the end of the day, to me, who was the biggest flop? Supergirl was. He-Man had potential, but Supergirl, from that post-credit scene all the way up to the movie, I just knew, and a lot of people knew that was not going to be good. They just knew it was going to be straight trash. And this is why DCU and Paramount, they need to get rid of James Gunn. That's what they need to do. They need to fire the gun. So y'all let me know y'all thoughts and comments, which one y'all believe was the biggest disappointment. Let's talk about it. Stay tuned.